Hello, everyone. Good morning, good afternoon, as per your respective time zone. On behalf of entire Evosys Managed Services team, we'd like to welcome you all to 22B Cloud Financials Advisory webinar session. This important session is to keep you fully synchronized with the new features and functionalities as a part of this quarter release which Oracle provides to us. My name is Hardik Patel, and I'm an operations manager here at Evosys Managed Services department. Today, I'm your host for this session, and I'm glad to introduce my colleague Dhruv Patwa, who is part of our vast finance team at Evosys. Today, he will take us through all the cloud financial updates for 22B quarter release. Today's session is planned for around 45 minutes, and he'll make sure that we'll also leave some time to answer all your questions you may have. We have experts in call with us who will keep an eye on the questions you may ask through chat or questions panel, and we'll be happy to answer them during the session and by the end of this session as well. Before we move to today's agenda, let's have a look at a quick disclaimer. We would like to convey your approach towards the Oracle updates in a very simple method. We'll be taking you through vital analyses for the 22B updates done by our experts, which will help you incorporating new features and updates easily into your system. We will also sync you on any bugs or known issues if there are any. It's good to have an interactive session, so as we mentioned earlier, please do ask questions through chat or question panel, and our team member will be happy to take them. This is to give you a glimpse on how we have crafted the structure of this session. So what you see, the first thing is list of new features coming into 22B, detailing on features, so you get brief understanding on what new features are all about. Next one is what are the business benefits, an important takeaway for you as decision maker. There are 4 components where we have done in-depth analysis of features which we are going to present to you today. The first one is impact level analysis, which demonstrates the impact on the end user. If it's a low impact, then regression testing can be avoided. If it's a high impact, then we need to offer regression testing. Second one, which is we all are aware that there are some features which are by default auto-enabled by Oracle, and there are some which we need to opt for. And the third one highlights the nature of the feature. There would be certain configurations which may be required, or some can be used without any changes. And the last one, which is a quick win. This term we use to simply convey that what is ready to use by investing minimum amount of time and what requires significant amount of time and efforts to make use of this feature. With this, before I hand it over to my colleague, with a quick poll, we would like to know that which industry does your organization belongs to. This will help us creating more fruitful webinar content moving forward. So with a poll on your screen, you can help us letting us know that your organization belongs to which industry. We'll be closing the poll in 5 seconds, and then we'll begin today's session. So we'll be closing the poll, and I've got my colleague Dhruv, who's ready to take you through today's updates. So Dhruv, over to you now. Unmute yourself, and stage is all yours. Thank you so much.
Thank you so much, Hardik, for being such a gracious host and for your introduction. Good morning, good afternoon, and good evening, everyone who have joined us live today. I am Dhruv Patwa, Evosys finance consultant. So I'm gratified by your presence, and I'm very glad to be your speaker. So let's kickstart the session. In 22B, we have 27 new features. Out of them, we have categorized those 27 features into 3 categories. The first one is quick win and no configuration, in which we have included the features for which we don't need to configure anything in the setups or anywhere, and they will be by default enabled. In the second category, we have 3 features in which we'll need to enable them from the setup areas and from opt-ins. And in the third one, These are important features for which we'll need to configure some setups, some processes, and we'll also need to enable the features from opt-in and from setup. So let's move on to the first feature. The first feature is common enhancement features that Oracle has included in their release based on their conversations and connects with customers, SR raised by customers, some conversations on SRs, some calls from the customers. So based on them, Oracle has introduced some minor enhancements in some processes, which will improve usability, resilience, and performance. So in usability, we have 4 pointers. In the first one, earlier we were not able to convert text currency to invoice currency if the text currency was different than invoice currency. So now we will be able to do that, and that will enhance accurate text amounts on the invoices. In the second one, earlier customer import upload FBDI only supported import of credit analyst names. But now we'll be able to identify the credit analyst from using their email address also in the same FBDI. In the third one, if intercompany transactions are expired, they'll be automatically rejected and the notifications will be sent to the relevant stakeholders. In the fourth one, earlier we did not have a facility to split the customer statements. Let's say you have one customer, two customer sites, and one is for print and another one is for any other method. Now we'll be able to split the customer statements by customer sites, but that is enabled only for a print delivery method. In resiliency, we have two updates. Both of them are related to scheduled processes. So for the first one, when you cancel import segment values and hierarchies process, earlier we were facing some hiccups and hindrances while doing that. So now it will end more gracefully than earlier. And in the second one, whenever we are importing high volumes of journal data, the log files were not that much user friendly and on which you can act upon. So now they have improved overall readability of the log files for all the journals. In performance, we have 4 pointers. The first one is Oracle has improved account-based text rules, which are from text engine. In the second one, whenever we are validating invoice, after validation, text calculation will be invoked. So that performance has been improved. In the third one, when we were running import segment values and hierarchy processes, we were facing some issues with the descriptive flex field information importation. So now Oracle has in this release updated those improvements and it will perform better hopefully. And the last one is for clients who have high volume of customers. So collection scoring history would be there for all the customer from start to end till now. So now the Oracle is giving us a facility to purge the collection scoring history for those customers. The second sheet is also regarding the common areas which Oracle has improved. So it is regarding simplified workflow rules configuration. So this feature was originally introduced in 18C, and after that, update by update, there have been some major and minor improvements in this specific workflow sheet. So you'll be able to download this sheet from the setup and maintenance, manage workflow rules in spreadsheet task. In this spreadsheet, Oracle has given us two advanced configurations. So we'll be able to select the advanced configuration from the drop down that will add a column in our spreadsheet. And after that, we'll be able to decide if we want to use some function, maximum function, count function to navigate the workflow rules for this invoices. So Oracle has accommodated a complex configuration of workflow, but it is simplified in a worksheet. So we'll be able to simplify uh, total. Let's say we want to limit total debit amount in a certain invoice. We want to have sum of distribution lines amount for a cost center. This can be done using this spreadsheet. The second enhancement in this same spreadsheet is we'll be having separate currency conversion rates and currency rate type if we are dealing with different currencies in a single transaction. So we'll be able to accommodate that in this same spreadsheet. Next, we have two updates in general ledger. Both of them are related to reports. So in the first one, we have general ledger account details report. So in this report, Oracle has updated the data model to include additional columns. These columns relates to journal activities and GL balances. So we'll be able to have more information when we are reconciling period activities with beginning balance and end accounting balances. So we'll have better reporting, we'll have better auditing, and we'll have better data to reconcile the reports. In the second one, it is general reports data model. So again, in this one also, Oracle has introduced additional columns at journal batch level, journal header level, and journal lines level. So again, we'll be having more data when we use the output. We'll have more information. So the reporting will be better. The audit activities will be carried out with more information. So both of these reports will have more information, and we can use the fields as per our needs. In expenses, we have four enhancements, and I'll be very glad to say that all four of these enhancements have been responded by Oracle from the Idea Lab. So many customers posted these ideas in the Ideas Lab, and they have been very well responded by Oracle. So in the first one, it is about allocation of expense items to projects and accounts. So earlier, we were only able to allocate the expense items by using percentage, but now we'll be able to do that by using amount, and based on amount, percentage will be calculated automatically. So we can do this at expense report level also. So the whole expense report will be split into certain accounts and projects. We can also do that based on expense items, individual separate expense items in an expense report. So now Oracle accommodates to split the expenses between account and between account and project based on percentage and amount. In the next one, Oracle has introduced uh, uh, the approval routing using accounting segments. So earlier, in most of our clients, we were using routing of expense reports through cost centers. So let's say if a cost expense report is charged to a particular cost center, it will be sent to a cost center manager. But now Oracle has included all the accounting segments, and even Oracle has accommodate accommodated the same thing in the expense distribution folder in general approvals work in expense approval workflow. So account owners will have more visibility that whatever is being charged to their account, and it will also help us add another layer of approval. So it will have better monitoring of the expense items and better visibility for the account owners. In the third one, it is so the third and fourth one is related to the mobile application. So earlier, based on our experiences with clients, many of clients were facing ins unsynchronized, interfaces, field behaviors between web application and mobile application. So how web application behaves, the same way mobile application was not behaving. So Oracle tried to, you know, uh, improve the customer experience and seamless synchronization between mobile application and web application. So earlier, we were only able to create expenses using digital assistant mobile application, but now we'll be able to submit all the expenses, even the ones which are created from web application, let it be corporate card charges or any cash expenses that are created from expense web application. So all of this will be able to we will be able to submit from using mobile application. So the submission of expense reports will not be delayed, and both of the application, web application and mobile application, will behave in the same manner. The second one is also in the same line. So earlier we were not able to attach PDF documents from mobile application. We were able to do that from web application, but not from mobile application. So now we'll be able to attach PDF attachments to expense reports from mobile application, be it from local drive or OneDrive or any cloud. So whenever you have receipts, let's say from hotels or rentals, anything, and you were not able to attach them PDF, you had to go through the hassle of converting them to from JPG to PDF and all of that. So your time will be saved, your submission of expense report will be seamless, and customer experience will be enhanced. So the ultimate goal from Oracle is to increase the customer experience. In budgetary control, we have two major amendments, and I'll be glad to say that the use of budgetary control is increasing gradually. So many of our clients who were not using it have already started using it and are exploring it. In this update for budgetary control analysis report, the budget transactions that belongs to control budgets with a control level of none, those transactions will be displayed in this report. And also, if you remember, in our earlier updates, there was one announcement regarding this, that you will be able to have budget entry classification if it is initial or adjustment. So the activities related to irrespective of budget entry classification, if it is initial or adjustment, we'll be able to see them in this balance activity detail area. So we'll need to opt in that, as it was earlier presented in our earlier upgrades as an enhancement, and it was an opt-in feature. So we'll be needing to enable that, and after that we'll be seeing the activities of those initial and adjustment budget entries in this balance activity detail area. So all in all, it will be helpful for budget managers to track the budget transactions on which we have a control level of none. In the second one, so the carry forward of open purchase orders. Uh, Oracle, before this enhancement, only non-sponsored projects purchase orders related to non-sponsored projects we were able to carry forward. So now Oracle supports carry forward of open purchase orders for sponsored as well as non-sponsored projects. So what this process will do is it will change the budget year of those open purchase orders from current year to the next year, and automatically the respective budget date will change for those purchase orders. So this was again posted in an Idea Lab, and it was graciously accepted by Oracle, and enhancement was introduced for the same. In the third one, this is related to OTBI. So let's say you are creating an OTBI for budgetary control to review the transactions, and you have a summary or a detailed data on your screen, but you are not able to decide that how this data came from, which transactions this data is coming from. So Oracle has introduced this functionality that you'll be able to add a deep link to a column in the OTBI. So deep link is nothing but a URL, and URL is like you just click a deep link and you'll straight away navigate it to the review budgetary control transaction page. So earlier you'll have to keep two screens open, one for OTBI, the second one for budgetary control transactions, and you'll need to search the transactions and go through all the navigation. So now it has the experience will be seamless and really hassle free for budget managers. So they'll straight away click on the deep link. It will take you to review budgetary control page, and if you click on anywhere on the screen, it will again take you back to the column, so you can go to and fro from this OTBI. In the next one, so we have payables enhancement now. So this is regarding IDR, so intelligent document recognition. We have two updates in this category. The first one is legal entity recognition from non-PO invoices, and the second one, which we will cover later, that is legal entity recognition from PO match invoices. In this one, whenever there are invoices, let's say invoices recognized from intelligent document recognition, but we had to manually put legal entity for those invoices. So it's obviously manual intervention is there. It will consume more time. We are able to identify, recognize invoice number, supplier name, and so on and so forth, purchase orders from invoice imaging, but we were not able to recognize legal entity. So now Oracle has introduced this feature that from bill to location or legal entity registration number, will be able to recognize legal entity from invoice by using intelligent document recognition. So for unmatched invoices, legal entity will be recognized from the invoice document itself. And if it is not recognized, for some reason we are not able to recognize it from the invoice document, we'll be able to recognize legal entity as we normally do. So let's say we go on create invoice page, it will be derived based on supplier setup, supplier master and BU setup, that what is a legal entity. It will be recognized from the same way. So recognition of legal entity will be automated once we have registered the scanning solution. So adaptive learning has recognized the solution, and from receiving invoices from the subsequent suppliers will be able to identify legal entity from non-matched PO invoices. In the second update, so this is again, so all of the updates for payables are related to intelligent document recognition. So Oracle is emphasizing on this solution, and it will be a good solution to implement. So in intelligent document recognition, earlier we were only recognizing invoice header attributes from invoices. Now, Oracle has introduced recognition of line level attributes from invoices. So let's say you have corrected invoice line level attributes. So these are the attributes: description, quantity, amount, and unit price. Let's say you have corrected the invoices using interactive invoice viewer, and after that, that will be registered in adaptive learning. And moving forward, whenever you receive invoices from the same suppliers from for your customer, the IDR will be able to recognize these attributes more accurately based on the corrections that you have provided in your previous invoices. So correction from line level is possible, and after that, adaptive learning and more recognition rate from invoice line level attributes is possible from the invoices using IDR, that is intelligent document recognition. In this third update, so there are, let's say you want to have some descriptive flex fields. You want to have some additional informations for your suppliers or related to invoices on certain fields. But Oracle does not have CDate fields for that. So we'll have routing attributes 2, 3, and 4 on our invoices. So what we'll be able to do is, using interactive invoice image, we'll be able to compare both of them. So this is the invoice image, interactive image viewer, and this is the invoice. So if you go to additional information on your invoice, and you can select which attribute from this invoice is represented by routing attribute 2, 3, and 4. So once we have identified that from this invoice from this spot on the page, we want to recognize certain data that should be attributable to routing attributes 2, 3, and 4, that will be recorded in the adaptive learning of IDR. And moving forward, whenever we receive invoices from that specific supplier, IGR and Oracle will be able to identify that yes, these attributes belong to routing attribute 2, 3, and 4 respectively, and it will be automatically populated on your invoices. So again, you won't have to manually feed those details on your invoices, and you will have seamless experience. You will have saved more time and automated the process. So again, IDR for payables. In the next one, so this is regarding the document which should be the base of IDR. So let's say you receive a PDF file in which there are multiple documents. So there will be a primary document, that is invoice, and there will be supporting documents. So your receiving and delivery challans, notices, contracts, receipts information, additional information that supplier may want to send you. How will Oracle or IDR identify that from which page IDR needs to fetch the details, IDR needs to scan the details from which document? So that is why Oracle has introduced this enhancement, because earlier uh, from many of our clients who were using IDEA, they were facing this difficulty that IDEA was working properly, but the the recognition of main attributes was not being done from primary document but from supporting documents. So now with this enhancement, it will be really easy for all the clients to use this feature and distinct between what is primary document, what is supporting document. So what we'll need to do is we'll add a text that says invoice supporting documents after our primary page, that is invoice page ends and supporting document pages starts. So between that we'll add this text, and Oracle will be able to identify that yes, whatever is before this text should be taken as a primary document, and all the invoice number, PO number, supplier number, legal entity will be recognized from that document. So again, this will be a continuous process. So it will be doing this. Adaptive learning will be improving their database, and recognition rate will be increasing after this. In advanced collections, we have one update that is regarding additional data points for collection scoring. So we all know that collection score, collection data points determine that what collection strategy should be assigned to a customer. So introducing two more data points which we can deploy at customer, account, or site level. The first one is regarding the amount in USD past due for more than 15 days. So this is only addressing the amount that is in USD and not all the amounts in all the currencies. And the second additional data point is age of last latest payment. So whenever you have made a last payment and you have created a data point regarding the last payment based on your data point and scoring, the strategy will be assigned at a customer, account, or site levels. So this will help the collectors to use additional data points if needed. If there was something missing from all their data points, they can use these data points and act accordingly, execute the strategies and tasks to collect from customers. In the next one, so this is regarding AMFAR, multi-fund accounting report. So this was introduced some releases back, and what it does is it will accommodate tracking of receivable balances at a fund level. So when we say fund level, we can take it as a balancing segment. So whenever we want to represent various lines from various funds, various balancing segments in a single invoice, we would use AMFAR. MFAR is multiple accounting report. So receivables aging by general ledger account for a multiple accounting report. We were able to run this report only from BIP, and that too for single segments at a time. So Oracle has enhanced this functionality that will be able to run this process from scheduled processes, and will be able to run this process for all the balancing segment values and not one by one. So it is enhanced user experience for scheduled processes, and again, MFAR is a useful thing. So that's all for the quick win and no configuration. Now we'll move to the quick wins and opt-ins. So again, these features are which you'll need to be enabling at from setups or from opt-ins. So the first one is related to manual subledger journal transfer to general ledger by preparer. So earlier, when we were transferring manual subledger journals, and we were running post subledger journal entries. So this is the process that I'm referring to, post subledger journal entries. We did not have any option to say that which entry should transfer. It was by default all. Now we have the option that I want to transfer all journals except manual journals, and manual journals created by me only. So this is enhancement to a schedule process, and this is a spreadsheet by which you'll be able to transfer. So post the journals in a final status and transfer the journals to general ledger by the preparer. So the general batches that will be posted to general ledger, they will be split by the users who have prepared them. So it will be easier for tracking purposes that whichever journals have come from manual journals, manual subledger journals, they are being prepared by a single preparer, and they are being pushed to general ledger in a certain batch, in a separate batch. So the tracking will be easier. And again, in this spreadsheet, you can specify the batch name here, and you can select that what should be the status. You just want to transfer it, you want to post them, you want to post them in a draft mode or final mode. So all this you can done based on the criteria that you want to use, and the tracking will be easier. In the second one, yeah, so this is an interesting update. uh, this was really a pain problem for food and beverages industries, the industries who were dealing with weights that comes in boxes and pounds and kgs and liters. And so this was a pain problem. And before 21D, in 22B, if I remember correctly, there was an update that you'll be able to invoice in a different quantity, and you will be able to record a PO in a different quantity. So UOM, unit of measure, of PO would be different. And in 21D, my bad, sorry, in 21D this was introduced. So unit of measure of PO and unit of measure of invoice would be different, and you will be able to match them. So in 22B, this update, Oracle has enhanced this functionality for receiving module also. So if your receipt quantity in receiving module is in different UOM, then invoice UOM, you'll be able to do that. So I'll show you the screenshots. So this is for PO. Here, this is PO is recorded in a different UOM, unit of measure, and it is priced under different UOM. The same thing is you'll be having the same configuration, same fields, same UI on your receiving lines. So UOM is different for first UOM is different for PO, and secondary UOM is different when you receive the same quantity. So this functionality will facilitate you that you should invoice what you have actually received, what you have actually delivered in your organization. So PO quantity, let's say you have ordered the goods in kgs, but you have received the goods in pounds, or you have received the goods in kgs, and now you want to invoice only what you have received. So Oracle will enable you to do that. So receiving quantity can be different, invoice quantity can be different, and PO quantity can be different, as in from the standpoint of units of measure. In the next update, so it is regarding lease accounting, and Oracle released this lease accounting solution approximately a year or some time ago, and we are seeing a great response for this feature. In this announcement, what Oracle has introduced is bulk amendment support. So let's say you have third party in which you are managing your lease contracts, your lease details, and you want to incorporate those changes into Oracle. Earlier you needed to do that from using UI, and that was not feasible. Like you can't do that if you have hundreds of thousands of leases or many leases. So let's say you have large number of leases and you have larger numerous amendments related to those leases. You should not and cannot and should not do that from UI. It will be very easier to do that from lease amendment import. So there can be many changes. Let's say you have changes in payment amount, you have changes in number of payments for lease, pricing of lease has been changed. So all of these changes can be accommodated by this lease amendment import, and we can uh, do these changes in Oracle with ease and in a speedy manner. So this will again facilitate the customers worldwide who are using lease accounting to facilitate lease amendments. In the next update, we have 7 features in which we will be needing to configure some of the features, some of the setups, and we may need to enable the opt-in feature for those features. So in the first one, we have tax subledger tax. So uh, it is regarding exception and tax exemption. So this update is will be more beneficial for countries like US and like countries who have more jurisdictions, who need to maintain jurisdictions tax rates, and they have complex tax configurations. So this will be helpful for them. So tax exemption will allow specified customers to be charged at a discount rate, and tax exception will allow discounting for items and products. So both of this tax exemption and the tax exception, they were based on a tax source, which used to be same before 22B, which used to be the same for both tax exemption and tax exception. So if you need a separate source, tax source for tax exemption and tax exception, you were not able to do that. So from the introduction of 22B, Oracle has now provided the flexibility. Oracle accommodates having different sources. So at tax exception and exemption level. So if you go to manage taxes, you will have two separate boxes. Tax exemption source and tax exception source. So in this, you can identify your tax exemption source. You can create tax exception source from managed tax exceptions. You will assign that to the tax source that you want to associate it with too, and the same thing will be easier for deriving tax exemption and tax exception from different tax sources. So tax engine should and would pick up exceptions for lower level jurisdictions from state level tax. So let's say you have assigned a tax source for country level, for state level, and now for county level transactions, the tax exceptions will be derived based on the configurations you have done for state level. So that will be easier, and it will be simplified for configuring tax. We will have greater control and good precision over tax calculation. So configurations will be easier. We can have separate source for both exemption and exception, and we can have more accurate tax calculation without going through the need to have more configurations and to set up more taxes. In the second one, this is regarding receivables module. So earlier, when we were having a transaction type that was having let's say creation sign of positive, so in that transaction we were able to add negative lines. So overall total amount of the invoice would still be positive, but it will contain negative lines. So from this update, Oracle has introduced a feature wherein we can control that, we can limit that. So let's say uh, you have a need to post negative lines in a transaction type that is associated with a creation sign of positive, and you want to review that. How can you do that? So we can do that by navigating through three setups. The first one is transaction source. So in transaction source, we'll need to enable control transaction completion checkbox. So after we have enabled this checkbox, we'll be having another checkbox at transaction type level, that is level of control of transaction completion, in which we'll have three options that we all, none, and transactions having negative lines. So what that will do, uh, so let's say you have a transaction associated to a transaction type assigned a creation sign of positive. In that you have posted negative lines, and your level of control of transaction completion is negative lines. So the transactions created with negative lines for this specific type assigned to a specific source will be created in an incomplete manner. Those transactions will not be completed unless and until the receivables manager, receivables specialist mark them as complete using REST API. So and the remaining two options are all and none. So when you have selected all, so that will mean that all the transactions will be created in an incomplete status, and none as in none of the transactions will be created in an incomplete status. All of them will be in a complete status. And to uh, to mark them as complete, we'll need to use REST APIs. So this enhancement is only applicable for invoices and credit memos. It is not applicable for chargebacks, debit notes, and etc. etc. So to use a REST API for credit memo, uh, we'll need to enable this lookup code from our setup, and after that only we'll be able to mark the standard credit memos as complete using REST APIs. So again, it will be really helpful to managers who wants to see that negative lines should not be entered with the transaction type which has creation sign of positive. Negative line should not go beyond the threshold that we have provided for these transactions. And if it is going, we'll be able to review them, and only after reviewing and marking them as complete, the transactions will move forward for approvals and everything. The next update is for invoice delivery. So this setup was already there. So XML invoice delivery is, we configure this setup at customer account level. So earlier, whenever we were running the process of generate and transfer XML transactions, all the invoices, irrespective of what was preferred delivery method at site level or account level, all the invoices were being delivered to customers through XML invoice delivery. So we do have, like, we have various types of customers who prefer various types of methods. Some prefer invoice delivery by email, some prefer invoice delivery by print method, and some prefer by invoice delivery by XML. So if we have configured XML invoice delivery at account level, customer account level, uh, all the invoices were being sent to customer sites, even they were having preferred method of email or print. So now there is a lookup code introduced that's called ARXML invoice enhanced. So if you enable this lookup code, it will enable customers to only send invoices using XML delivery method, and it will ignore the site level assigned preferred delivery methods. So let's say you have XML invoice delivery at account level. You have three sites, one for email, one for print, and the third one does not have any preferred method. So when you will run this generate and transfer XML transaction schedule process, it will only send the invoices related to customer account and the third site which has preferred delivery method of none. So the print and uh, email delivery method which we have selected at site level, they will be respected, and invoices will not be sent to invoices belonging to those sites. So it will enable us to, send more accurately invoices more accurately across the customers, and customers will not be bombarded with unnecessary delivery methods while we ignore the settings on the site level. So it will be really helpful feature if we have enabled XML invoice delivery and we have various methods enabled at site level. In the next one, in expenses application, we have an enhancement relating to cash advances. So there are many clients who are using cash advances, and obviously, and they are submitting expense reports. So uh, earlier, employees and users were not able to correlate between cash advances and expense report. So let's say you have taken a cash advance for a specific purpose, and you are creating an expense report. Now you want to correlate between those, that this is the cash advance that I had procured from the company for this specific expense item, for this specific expense report. And while creating expense item, the users will be able to apply this cash advances, and auditors and approvers will be able to see those cash advances. And also, let's say an employee has cash advances, let's say 5 or 6 cash advances received, taken from the company, but they have not applied any cash advance to a specific expense report or expense item. So they may provide a justification that why a specific cash advance was not applied to a specific expense item, expense report, and approvers will be able to see those justifications. After they have been approved, they will go to the auditors, and auditors will also be able to view the justifications provided by the users and employees. But yeah, auditor cannot make any changes to whatever was applied to a report. They can uh, accept what was applied, or they can reject what was applied. And again, uh, uh, Oracle has also made sure that the enhancement will be user friendly. So once the expense report is rejected, the cash advance amount will go back to what it was originally. If it is accepted, it will reduce by what was approved, and let's say partially it was applied, so respectively that amount will be tallied with whatever was applied and whatever was unapplied. So it will have more flexibility for employees to correlate between why cash advance was taken and to which expense amount it should apply to. In the So yeah, this is a really good one, and this was specifically mentioned by many clients in Idea Labs on Oracle, that they want to recognize legal entity using IDR, that is intelligent document recognition, from PO based invoices. So we earlier covered non-PO based invoices. Now we are covering PO based invoices. So in this feature, we'll be able to recognize legal entity from bill to location or legal entity registration number. But Oracle has also given us an additional feature that if we want to match the legal entity from PO to invoice, so in manage IDR options, we have an option that is validate the legal entity identified for matched invoices. That is, legal entity will be recognized, identified from the PO, recognized from the invoice, and that will be matched to legal entity identified from invoices. And if we want to enable this checkbox, what that will do is it will recognize the legal entity from invoice document. And if for any reason IDR is not able to recognize that from the invoice document, then legal entity will be derived from the purchase order. If we have not enabled this option from manage IDR options, then legal entity will be derived from the purchase order. But let's say we have enabled this option and legal entity in PO and legal entity in invoice are different, they are not matching. Then invoice will be created in an incomplete status, PO will be rejected, and users will see error on purchase order field, purchase order number. So they can take corrective actions, maybe on PO or invoice, and whichever legal entity should be rectified, should have been rectified, will be rectified, and after that invoice will can be completed. So this will facilitate recognition of legal entity from PO based invoices. If we want to enable this option, we can have validation to compare legal entity on PO and invoice. So again, this will reduce manual intervention, this will reduce errors, and we can have adaptive learning. So once we have established the process and we have identified legal entity from PO based invoices, moving forward, whenever we receive invoices from those specific suppliers, it will be really easy to identify legal entity from the PO based invoices. In the next one, in payables, so this from my experience, this is a really good enhancement. So let's say uh, client is using IDR, intelligent document recognition. They are implementing that to non-prod environments. They are training. So whoever is using IDR will know that it works on a continuous basis. We will train IDR. We will train adaptive learning, the recognition rate. So whatever we in this enhancement, in this 22B upgrade, whatever we have yet gone through, that invoice lines should be corrected, and that invoice lines that are corrected from invoices, they will be included in adaptive learning. um, Legal entity should be recognized from PO or non-PO match invoices, that will be included in adaptive learning. So all these processes will be combined in adaptive learning, and based on that, the recognition of required attributes, important attributes for suppliers and invoices will be determined. So let's say you do that on non-prod environment, but now if you migrate the solution to production, you'll have to do this all these processes again. You'll need to train your IDR, you'll need to include all the required data for basic testing in your adaptive learning, and that was creating time consumption from client's perspective, cost consumption from client's perspective. This will be eliminated from this enhancement. So you can literally uh, copy and paste adaptive learning data from one environment to another, and that will eliminate the need to train your IDR, to have your adaptive learning data at a level that you are assured that yes, from now on we can implement the solution, we can go live, and we can use the recognition of attributes from invoices. So we can do that instantly, just copy and paste from target and source environment to target environment. And this will be really helpful for the clients who are still in the implementation stage and are using IDR, intelligent document recognition. And the last one in 22B is a recognition of internal suppliers. So IDR works on a criteria that supplier invoices should be created only for external suppliers and not for internal suppliers, and that is the intended functionality of Oracle. So that is understandable, but we have come across some requirements from our clients that even though they are receiving invoices from internal suppliers, they want to have invoices created as though they were received from external suppliers. So how can that be done from IDR? Earlier we were not able to do that, now we can. All we need to do is create a unique supplier type. We should assign that unique supplier type to internal suppliers from whom we want to receive invoices and want to create invoices as external suppliers, uh, payables invoices in our system. And after doing that, IDR will be able to distinct between internal suppliers. Let's say you have 15 internal suppliers. Out of 15, you want to have 10 internal suppliers from whom you want to create supply invoices. So IDR will be able to recognize that yes, these 10 suppliers have unique supplier type assigned to them. So this will be taken as an external supplier and invoices will be created. And for the remaining 5 internal suppliers, no invoices will be created as payables invoices. So again, this will increase the recognition capability and adaptive learning of IDEA. So all of these features will, all the features related to IDEA, they will create seamless experience for users. They will reduce manual intervention. They will increase the accuracy of creation of invoices directly from invoice imaging solutions. So all of this will be helping our clients. So that's it from my side, and thank you so much for being such a lovely audience and patiently listening to this live webinar. uh, and have a happy time ahead. So over to you, Hardik. Thank you.
Hey, Drew. Thank you for the wonderful insights today. So we won't take much time of yours. Before we move to the Q&A part, with a quick poll, would like to understand your area of interest, whether it's technology innovation, managed services, value-based analytics, which is helping lots and lots of our Evosys customers accelerating their business with the amazing dashboards our team's been working on, or the cloud transformation. If you have any questions on any of these, you can also reach out to dedicated project managers or the team leaders. They can arrange the one-to-one session for you as well. So, I mean, based on your inputs here, we can craft even more value-based content going forward, and we can serve your on your request if there is any. And by the time you fit in some polls, we'd like to tell you that we'll be in coming days we'll be sending you HTML page on an email with the link, which you can even bookmark, because that's a permanent link where all the webinars are getting loaded along with the PDF presentations. And the recording of this over to YouTube, so you can use within the team. So that'll be sent to you by our marketing team. And thank you so much for this poll. And let's see if there's any questions we have it here. So Como, if you can unmute and just reconfirm there are no questions.
Yes, Hadik, there are no questions further.
Thank you so much. And just before you leave us all, we also have a PPM session coming in, Project Portfolio Management, on 11th of May. So if you want to pass the message to anyone on your team, if they want to register for there, we'll be more than happy to be part of it. I also have some HCM sessions, any of your colleagues, if you want to pass the message. And before you leave us, just last 30 seconds, if you can tell us how we did today. And based on your feedback, we can improve it even further for the upcoming webinars and upcoming series. So that'd be great help from you. And with that, we are done with today's webinar, but your vote would help us kind of improving and serving even better. Thank you so much for everyone's input there, the feedback of today's session. So we'll be closing today's poll in 5 seconds. And once again, we would like to thank you everyone for sparing the important time for this 22B Cloud Financial webinar. And as promised, we'll be sending you recordings on the YouTube and with the PDF presentations, which you can use and pass it to your colleagues as well. Thank you once again. Thank you, everyone.